Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of our high level podcast called the Spotlight Sessions, where we bring in top experts and industry leaders around marketing, sales, and even software. As of now, if you haven't heard the word SaaSpreneur, we talk about software quite a bit. But what we want to do is make sure you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. So, we're going to have this topic called the principles of outbound marketing. There are three lanes that we want to cover in this podcast. One is understanding the data behind the business. Then it's the customization and the personalization of the experience. And lastly, but not least, the nurture, the expansion of the business and how you really enhance the customer journey for anybody in the realms. But I want to introduce you to Solomon. If you haven't seen Solomon's Instagram ads or TikTok ads or Facebook ads, you're not in marketing yet. I swear I've seen your ads for at least a couple of years at this point. Solomon built a company called Clickx, and we now integrate with his business as well. And we see a lot of high levelers, really, really excited for this whole entire partnership. Solomon, before I go any further, what's your story? What's your background? How did you become a digital citizen? I know you've been doing this for 20 plus years or longer as an entrepreneur, but what's the story behind the brand?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Paul, for having me on the podcast. So the first is getting out of college. The first thing I did is build websites sitting at a Panera Bread on a Saturday because I have school Monday to Friday. So and I got paid for it. I think it was like 1,500 bucks. We started off getting paid, and I mean, it was not the greatest website. It was not the best SEO website, but I realized that there's a business here. Like I can just do this. I mean, I'm self-taught developer, so I didn't have to pay anybody else. I did it by myself, and I'm sure there's hundreds and thousands of digital marketers listening today that that's what they do. So little by little, I started an agency, and we realized that a lot of our customers didn't want a pretty website, Pulse, and they wanted leads, they wanted sales. So we morphed out of being a pretty creative website, cutesy site, if I may. There's nothing wrong with that for my creative people out there, but the clients that I had said, I need more leads, do that for me. And then so early on, we started to get into digital marketing, which is ads, was Google Ads primarily, and then it would be SEO. That was the other alternative thing. So that got me to where I am today. So a lot of the technology that we talk about was built for us. We needed a way to show clients reports and download data and anything that we didn't want to do manually, we just went and started coding. That led to more and more people wanting help, agencies specifically. So we started to do white label fulfillment, and it's just like on and on. We kept, tackling different challenges that agencies face when they're trying to scale.
Absolutely. And times have changed. Now clients don't even want leads. They want appointments, and some even don't even want appointments. They want people walking in the door, right? And the
Right.
landscape of marketing and sales has drastically changed. So Solomon, help us understand outbound marketing. We always talk about inbound marketing, and it's like, outbound marketing is something that's just not touched, mostly because a lot of people have misinformation on it, or they just simply don't know it. And even
Right.
if they know it, they just never scaled with it, right? What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
it? Help us understand your perspective on outbound marketing.
absolutely. So I don't know this quote. It's if you want to double your success, you have to double your failures. You've probably heard that before, but a lot of people are unwilling to do that, right? So the reason I came about learning about outbound was for our agency. We sent out emails to very specific business owners that we felt could use our services, but they weren't Googling, so they could never see my ads, or they didn't, live in my location where my maps would have showed up. So we prospected, that's the, email prospecting, and they replied and they said, yeah, sure, we can have a meeting. So this worked, and we scaled it for ourselves. And now back in the day, email was so easy. There wasn't like email verification tools and all these things that you had to do today. We just emailed the CEO, and most of the time they would get back to you because they were getting 10 times less emails than there are today. But over time, we kept doing this over and over. Every time we needed sales, we sent on a bunch of emails, and people would reply and book meetings, and then we would close deals. We're like, dude, this is absolutely insane. So fast forward, as getting more and more advanced with what we're doing and helping agencies scale, whatever the amount that they're looking for, we set up ads for them if they don't have leads, and we do cold email. So we had to find a way to make cold email a reality. So the biggest challenge I think people have is that they just don't know how to execute it. It's actually gotten really technical today. And I mean, last month or month before, Google and Microsoft will not, you know, you'll not get anybody's inbox without DMARC and DKIM and all these things that you have to do today, which is so technical, most people just don't want to deal with it. And whenever we see that as an opportunity to say, hey, what can we do? Because a lot of people's emails aren't going to, get into the inbox. They're just going to quit. That's an opportunity for you and me to scale up on getting into the inboxes. So the challenge we had is we can't get good quality data, Paul, and like small business data. So if you go look at all of these businesses out there, there's database companies. There's Apollo for LinkedIn. There's Seamless AI, which is another tool. There's Zoom Info. There's all these massive data companies. But what they have is stuff that you can get from LinkedIn, which is not small businesses. Those are not brick and mortar businesses. Those are not the guys that need reviews. Those are not the guys that need, does that make sense? Facebook ads with
Yeah.
the Met Spas of the world. So we're like, well, where are we going to get this thing? So we started to build out our own database so we can start to enhance the data with their website title tag. We want to know what platform they built their website in. We want to know how many reviews they have. So, because all the things that you do with high level, we want to know so we can figure out what angle to pitch them in, right? Like we want to know if they got 500 five-star reviews. We could use that in our email to personalize it, then we get better replies. Otherwise, all I'm doing is saying, hey, Paulson, I found you on LinkedIn, which is pretty boring. You're probably not going to reply to me. But what if I said, hey, Paulson, I noticed you guys are hiring a chief marketing officer at high level. I know three people that could be a good fit. Would you want me to do an introduction? You're probably going to reply to me because it sounds like I've done my research. I know what your company's up to. So that's the level of personalization that we wanted to get to. So first, we said, you know what? This is probably going to be a huge undertaking. Let's go kind of get all these small business data into this one system, and then we could start to use slice and dice, go to their website, crawl it, find every bit of information we can. That means including email address so we can verify it. And once we verify it, we can send emails to them. This is kind of how our outbound passion
Yeah.
has started. And I firmly believe if you can generate leads on inbound, right, which is ads, like you mentioned, I'm a big believer of it. And I've been running ads for a long time. You certainly can get leads and close on outbound.
Yeah, so if I'm watching this podcast, Solomon, and I am, let's say, less than a year into my digital journey, and I'm like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. What are the data points that I should pay attention to as a brand new beginner? Or,
Yeah.
I know the first pillar we want to talk about is understanding the data landscape,
Yeah.
but where do we start? Because I feel like there's so much data, but not all is relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would start with some of the basics as an agency. It's like, who do you want to serve? That probably is the first thing, because before that, you're not going to buy any data or get anything. So let's just say that we want to go after med spots because it's a high ticket product and digital marketing makes sense. You can do ads and that goes to some kind of a voucher and people, come in and you get the money back, right? So if that's the case, then I need to go find these kinds of people. So we want to probably go deeper than that. We probably want to know their Google business profile information so we know if it's claimed, unclaimed. So that would be my first step is figuring out who I want to serve, right? Like that's my first thing. Once I have that, I would probably want to figure out what my product is. So let's just say something that use ads and some marketing automation. That's a great product. That's a business in a box, right? So I could replicate it. I could scale it. I could sell the same thing over multiple med spas and scale my SaaS business or my agency business, whatever it is, it's totally possible if you had something like that. So to answer your question, I would say, who do you want to serve? Now, some of the agencies want to serve different kinds of people. They want to serve plumbers and roofers and whatever, but you can't really start anything without, finding that part.
Now, and I know you may not want to talk about your own stuff, but help us understand the relationship with Clickx and HighLevel. Is there a
Yeah.
role there that makes this whole data component a lot more easier for us?
Absolutely. So obviously, lots of the agencies that come to our world, they have high level. So we were like, well, how do we leverage this technology and whatever we build in what they're doing? Let's say they want to send out emails every month to med spas. So they have an automatic email newsletter they build out and send. So what we're doing is we're pushing anything that we have people that we prospected to or want to prospect to with a click of a button. You can pick which sub accounts that you want to push that data to, and we give it to you so that you can add that into your cold call list, or if you're hiring a cold caller to call these people or sending mass emails, you're welcome to do that. So that way, if you are a brand new agency, Paulson, which a lot of people are, you open up your sub account for your agency, there is nothing in there. No contacts, maybe six people you added manually. And if you're not running ads, you have nothing, right? So you could literally have 10,000 people in there, like in 5 minutes. All you have to do is figure
Wow.
out who I want to go after, push a couple of buttons, pick your sub account. So we went through the whole process adding that. So it's easy now. Now you have 10,000 people. Let's figure out what you want to do with this information, right? Like, do you want to prospect to them? Do you want to email them? So on. But that I think is invaluable.
And I'm not a technical wizard, so help me understand at an elementary level, how is ClickX doing that? Is it scraping data? Is it pulling data from a certain
Yeah.
technology? Like how can I have 10,000 people on my contact list, like you're
So
saying?
yeah,
Where's that,
we
you know?
we started off with like a bare bones data of like first, business name, address, phone number, kind of like NAP, if I may.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
then we enhanced it by going to these websites and adding things that we can add. Because our whole thing is like, if this data is as important as all of our agencies business collectively, it's billions of dollars, right? Everybody's making. So like think about that. How valuable is that? These people need marketing. At the end of the day, that's it. If they want to grow, they need to do leads, they need to get sales, they need to have something, they need to have a system, they want to outsource it. So it's really important for somebody to take ownership of that. And now if you go to these big guys and say, hey, I want a roofers list, they're going to give you 100 people in a state because there's only 100 people who made a LinkedIn company page, but there's 100 people in a zip code. Do you know what I mean? Or five zip codes, is
Mm,
where you live.
yeah.
So there's nobody taking, I guess, that level for prospecting or for agencies to lead gen, right? So we kind of realized like if we really cared about small businesses, somebody's got to be doing this thing because scraping is great until something breaks, it
Yeah.
doesn't work anymore, and then also the information gets outdated. So we're like, okay, well, we could always enhance this data, but we know that a lot of agencies come into our world and they say, I want med spas. So we're doing the same thing over and over. Next
Yeah.
thing says, I need plumbers. I'm like, we just did that last week. We might as well store and clean. Why do all of this stuff, right? Over and over. So, Paulson, we take a picture of their website. We store a picture of their website in our database. So I can send a photo of their website in the body of the email to let them know, like, hey, I was on your website and here's a like a little
Yeah.
picture. Even though it's pretty corny and cheesy, like, why would I want to see a picture of my own website? Well, everybody else's email is plain text. My email comes out a little bit more, you know,
A bit more
HTML.
creative.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. So we kept finding more ways to make our email stand out. And that's what I mean, that the data is so important. It's so
Yeah.
important because, like I said, everything about the person that they care about most is them. The business owner all day long thinks about them and their business. So when I go and start pitching my services to them, they don't want to hear it. But if I start pitching them about them, they'll be happy to reply to you, right? They'll be
Yeah.
happy to take a call. So that's what I say. You want to have double the success. You got to have the double the fit. I've sent a lot of emails. It was me that didn't get anywhere. So we said, you know what? We got to flip the script. This is not about me. This is about them. So the questions we ask are, if we know that they posted a job, Paulson, with someone we keep, we have a whole jobs database, people who post jobs. We will send an email to the CEO of the company who posted a job saying, hey, we noticed that you posted a job for a marketing consultant. I'm curious, what are you looking to do? Do you think that email will get a response? Or if I tell them, hey, Paulson, um, I do lead generation and I've been doing it for 12 years. Like what email is going to it's very simple, but it's hard to execute, right? So we find this data component to be the most valuable piece.
I love it. And I think this is gonna really change the game for a lot of high levelers because a lot of people have advanced, prospecting knowledge and some are starting out and they don't have to start from scratch, right? So I think it's gonna be a really interesting play here. So let's talk about the second pillar, which is personalization and customization, and help us
Yeah.
understand what you mean by that and how does that affect the business as a whole in general.
I absolutely. So this was the second piece, which we were like, okay, so we have this data. How do we put all this together? Because the way that the person gets the email has to feel like you read their mind, right? So now I have to really get personalized. So the first thing last year before we did is we went to ChatGPT, we copied and pasted the whole copy of their homepage and had ChatGPT write as an intro sentence. So we called this an icebreaker. That was our 1.0. It's very advanced, but the 1.0 failed on us a lot because ChatGPT likes to write more than you ask. It's just kind of, you know what I mean? You don't know what's going to happen. This is, by the way, we call it autopilot. So we set 100 emails a day for this niche, and it's just going to go out. So there's no like me reading every email and checking it and verifying. We can't do that. That's not going to scale.
Yeah.
So like that doesn't happen. So we got rid of that for a little while. So what we've done is we've done more personalization. So again, the screenshot was a good one. I don't know if you know this, but if you ever go to like Google business profile, you could see the category that they listed their business under. So you'd be like Thai restaurant for Thai. It's not just restaurant. So if you're an attorney, it would say estate planning attorney or something very specific. So we go get that category and then we put it into it saying, I'm working with other estate planning attorney as if it was one sentence. Boston, this is like super creative. Okay. Watch, everybody's going to copy this. So the reason we do that is that no one's ever going to email them and say, I work with attorneys. That's too generic. They're not just attorneys. They don't want that email. They want the email that says, I work with estate planning attorneys. And then we know what city they're in because they're brick and mortar. Then we say, hey, we got one spot open in this little town that you live in. So feel like this guy knows my category, what's this, sticks a picture, and all these randomness, but it comes out together really, really nicely. They say it can't be like automated. Just no way. This looks real, right? But it is real. But no two emails are leaving our system with the same body. That's one of the reasons you can get your emails in the spam box because you have one template and just like, you know what I mean? You're just like sending hundreds and hundreds of emails. Google and Microsoft
Mm.
knows really well what you're doing is email prospecting. And so, boom, they shut you down and you burn the lid, just to do it over. So, one technique is that. The second technique is spin tax, which is taking one way of saying a sentence, is it worth a chat, and writing four versions of it. And every email sends a different version. So, we took that to the real nth degree. So, every sentence has four versions. So, there's like the email looks this long, but it comes out to a four-sentence email, right? So that's personalization. So the other thing that we then did is, what if, Paulson, we can make a Loom video of you in front of their computer and their website, and as like you're talking about their website. So what we've done is you upload a MP4 video file, just like you at a desk. We take their
As
website
the agency owner.
as the agency owner.
Okay.
And so we're scrolling their website. We record their screenshot. We stick your video on top of it. We compose what a new video. We take that and we put in there saying, hey, I was on your website and we did a complete audit. I'm happy to send you this audit. Just email me back and tell me you're interested. So they're watching this GIF animation of Paulson scrolling to the website while talking. They're like, this can't be,
This
there's
guy
no way
cares. Yeah.
that's real. So they reply back and say, send me the audit. So what do you really do? You go on Loom and you actually do an audit and you send it back to the person, say, hey, attorney, whoever it is, like, here's the audit of what I would do differently. And they're like, yeah, the two things go together.
I love it. So what's the scalability behind this? Like, let's say
Yeah.
I'm an agency with like 100 clients and I've got two closers and two appointment setters and they're just cranking out appointments all day long on my schedule, right? If I'm in
Yep.
that kind of a mode, what's the scalability behind something like this?
So the cool thing is with emails, all you need is more domain names, more inboxes. I mean, you know this.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. So we have some metrics like, hey, we have health score. We want to make sure that we have like 90% or greater. That means that all of our emails are getting into the inbox, it's not going to spam. And if that goes down, we don't send anything from that email, give it a break, come back. Secondly, if I need to scale up my volume, we just buy more inboxes and more domain names. So we buy a couple of emails per domain name, and then we scale this up, warm it up. So the data is not a problem because, like I said, you can get a lot of data these days. So you can, as long as you can have the bandwidth, you could do that. So for appointment setters, one of the things that we like to do is like a pure SDR kind of thing. So if you have an appointment setter, you're a big time, 6 figures a month, whatever it is, you get this data, you can email them and coordinate a call to happen at the same time. It's been proven that you get 80% more chance of getting an appointment if you did something like that, which is why all
Mm,
these big tech SaaS companies who do outbound, they have one SDR sit there and email day one, call day two, LinkedIn message day three. You know what I'm saying? Like they got this playbook called predictable
yeah.
revenue. It's that they just keep doing that, and that allows them to get to that ICP, that persona, much faster, qualified, disqualified, book an appointment, or just, you know what I mean? No more touch points. So those are what I would do for the people that have SDRs. But otherwise, what if you just had a part-time appointment setter? What I would do is that I will take those responses and have them get nurtured by my appointment setter. So one of the things that in Outbound, this is something I learned from Aaron Ross, Predictable Revenue 10 years ago or whatever it was. It came out. Outbound requires so much more nurturing than inbound. You
Yeah.
see, like we talked about my ads. Well, a lot of people come in like, Solomon, I know you. Solomon, I've seen you. Solomon, I've seen your stuff. Solomon, the rapport's been built. They seen me and retarget, and they've like whatever it is, right? They get fall into your little funnel, and they're just seeing ads on top of ads every day. You just see ads. So what happens is that they feel like they know you. They feel like they've seen you before, or
Yeah, I
whatever it
mean,
is.
I,
So the
I felt
rapport.
like I was sitting on the passenger seat as you did the videos on as you're driving. Like I remember these ads, I'm telling you.
Thank God for my media team. Like they just bust out ads all the time. I got a text message from a guy. He said, "Hey, I just saw your ad on X." I was like, "Oh, cool. How you doing?" Literally just like 30 minutes ago. So I'm a big believer of ads. And if you're in marketing, you got to learn how to do really good marketing. That's just my baseline. That's like you can't be a bad marketer and be in marketing. Just don't do that. Make us all look good. So the report is not there for outbound. So you got to build rapport. So oftentimes what happens is that people have short mindset. Like, oh, I got a positive yes. So they're likely going to book a meeting and then likely going to become a customer. Like, no, they're like and trust and show me that you know me. You know what I mean? Show me that you really know what you're doing. They might require a customer call or something. I don't know, case study or five. And you have to be willing to do that because that trust is not there. First of all, they're skeptical because it's an inbound email. As personalized as I can get, it's still like prospecting. It's still cold call, cold email, right? It's very cold. So we got to go from that to, hey, I really meant business. We know what we're doing. So a lot of our agencies, they make little videos if they reply back and say, no, thanks, not interested, or any of those things, because that's an easy way to get you off of their inbox and move on with your life, no matter how, personalized you got. So we don't want to leave it there. We make a little video, show them what they should be doing, just leave it to them to decide if this is a good fit or not. That shows that you're a real human being, right? That you care, and that at some point in the future, if I want to engage, they'll remember you. So there's a lot more nurturing that we're doing with outbound because it's just not the same as running ads.
Yeah, and
Even for
nurturing
inbound.
is
Yeah.
yeah, and nurturing is really the third pillar we wanted to discuss. So help us understand a bit more in depth of what the standard of nurturing should be? I know in the world of sales, we talk about, 8 to 12 touch points and all this stuff. Like, how long are the sales cycles? When should we give up versus, go harder? Like, what are the parameters that we should work in when it comes to follow up and nurturing?
Yeah, so Marketo did a study. They found out that the leads that you nurture, they're going to buy 50 to 50%, 50 times better or 50% higher chance of you closing than the ones that you do. And also it's 33% or so less. So it costs you less to close a client that is nurtured than the one it is not. There was also another study that the leads that you nurture, they buy the sale is bigger. They're buying a bigger ticket item than a lead that was not nurtured. So like you can go, if you were selling high level from 97 to a $1,500 ticket to the conference or a mastermind because you nurture the lead, which is what a lot of agencies do really well, right? Agencies generally, they sell high ticket, but it took a month or two or three. So when you don't nurture it, you're risking the chance of closing the deal at all because that like and trust is just not there. Again, people are just skeptic in general, which is why we love ads. Because, like I said, I'm nurturing people without even knowing I'm nurturing people. I don't know who's seeing the ads, but someday they're going to fill out the form. But by then, they're familiar with the brand. They know what it is. They've probably been to a webinar or two. So it's not a pressure sale. But in the outbound world, there is nothing like that. We're not inviting them to a webinar. We're not inviting them to anything. They're not downloading an ebook, right? They're not doing anything. So you're going to have to give your time, send them Loom videos, recommendations, things that they could be doing in the meantime while they're still thinking about whether or not they want to work with you. So I think for me, that nurture component is probably the one that a lot of people have missed in their cold email. Maybe they got some success, but they never nurtured it the same way that I'm talking about. That has led them to getting poor results. Whereas if you put nurturing systems in front, reaching out to them, texting them, which by the way, I'm a big proponent of. I'm like, they text everybody else. Like, we want to be their friend.
Yeah.
We don't want to be just Zoom meetings because that's too professional. And that means that we're not quite there yet, right? They don't feel like we could approach them or they can approach us. We want to build that trusted advisor. So it's more of a sales thing. Like, I want them to be treating me like a trusted advisor, not a salesperson. Because when they talk to salespeople, the resistance is up all the way. They won't tell you their problems. They don't tell you the real problems. Do you get what I'm saying? They give you surface level
Yeah.
problems. They don't give you a real budget. But Paulson, you've been in agency world before, but you know those customers that trust you, they'll tell you right out of the gate, we can spend 5,000 or 3,000 in ads, or the last agency was charging me this. They tell you what they were charging you. Not keeping it a secret is because they trust you. So they were telling you like, hey, the last agency was 2,500. We'll be okay around there. Like, you sure you heard those
Yeah.
same phrases? That means that you were able to build a rapport. They trust you so much that they're willing to tell you. People have sent me proposals. Here's the proposal. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, all right. I see what they're doing. So why? Because they trust you. And the other salesperson, the other company could have done exactly what you do, but they didn't take the time to nurture the relationship to feel like the way they feel with you or I or whoever it is. So I think that's really important because you can get the technology right. You can get the personalization right. You can get the data right. But then if you screw that part up, you're probably not going to close anything. It's not just about outbound, it's inbound too. So we try to go as deep as we possibly can. And I mean, I think a lot of uh, online business people do a great job messaging them on Facebook and you know what I mean? Like they go off of like the emails into more personal territory, which I think is a good idea if you can scale it. Because you do have hundreds of relationships to nurture. So I don't know what
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Um, but to me, I found that part is one of the most important because by then they'll forget how they met you. They'll forget if it was inbound, outbound, referral. They forget everything. They're just like, oh, I have a guy. It's Paulson, right? Like I have a person. It's JB. JB's my guy.
Right.
That's where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go a little further into differentiating with the spirit of prospecting. Let's differentiate the mentality an agency owner should have versus like a SaaS oriented SaaSpreneur should have? What are the differences you see? And I think working with like a high ticket $2,500, $5,000 retainer, and you're trying to,
Right.
really show yourself and demonstrate your skills versus, let's say, a $97 SaaS subscription. What
Yeah.
are the differences you see, and what are your findings when it comes to these two types of like, I guess, MSPs or providers?
Yeah. So the first one is the one we have the most experience in because that's how we built our agency, right? We just emailing people or running ads, getting them to do a strategy session, and you show them what they don't know. And then they're like, wow, this is amazing. I want to go ahead and buy this thing. The other kind of leads, the ones that you're emailing and giving them the software side, you're not going to get $2,500. It'll take you 25 months because you're doing $97 to get there. So your CAC or customer acquisition cost has to be like a lot less. However, you have to look at the lifetime value of those customers and say, hey, the lifetime value is that they stick with me for a year. It's $1,200. And so I can spend 30% of that. And that's, you know what I mean? So that's the route that you want to take. And then invest. So I would do, like I said, after we send an email, if they open the email, I would call them, even though they didn't positively reply, because you're going to have to do a lot more volume on the SaaS side. But the good thing is you don't have a lot of work.
On the fulfillment.
HighLevel does all the work for you, right? On the SaaS side,
Yeah.
right? You just have to worry about selling. So all these tech companies, the Calendlies of the world, they have these super expensive salespeople and they have all these high tech. Why? Because they know the lifetime value is great. And once they come on board, they go to some customer success, you know what I mean? Queue and systems. And technically, they're supposed to do all this on their own. We don't have to worry about it. They invest their energy and time building their marketing funnels and their sales systems and then scaling the whole operation. So, what I would say for SaaSpreneurs is that inbound works, outbound works, but you're going to have to work a little harder because you're making a little bit less. On the agency side, they could easily get to 5 grand, even if you're terrible. We just need like 10 proposals. You know what I mean? Like really good prospects, and two will buy. And now you're doing so good, right? Maybe it's not, you probably make decent profit, but on the SaaS side is almost 100% or
Yeah.
90% or whatever it
What
is. Yeah.
what we see often is a lot of agencies use the retainers as like like a launcher. So they'll sell maybe two or three retainers a month and throw all that revenue and profit into SaaS acquisition, right? So they play both sides until their SaaS portfolio is built up to a certain healthy level, and they just gradually kind of sunset the old school retainer traditional marketing, depending on how they want to build their agency.
Right.
Some keep it going. They love doing, their $25,000 billboards.
Yeah.
There's a style to it, but what we see is they ensure they create they remove the volatility by having both sides in a sense.
Yeah. I,
Now, go ahead.
I'm a big fan of the low ticket because, like I said, when you lose a $2,500 client or a $5,000 client, that's a big hit. You're like, ouch, that hurts, right? But if you lost someone that's $99, like, yeah, I'm gonna get that back in like 2 weeks or
Yeah,
today, whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? It's like it's not going to
yeah.
be that big of a loss. So I totally get it. I think it's more scalable. And when you have such a low ticket item, there's going to be a lot of people who just doesn't even know like what's the $99 for. It's like, oh, it's the website, it's this, it's that. They justify it emotionally and they're just like done with it. They don't even care what it does, as you could probably imagine, right? Oh, it's the email automation. Oh, we need that. But when it's 2,500 and they're having a tough month, what's going to happen to Paulson's bill? They're going to be like, yeah, Paulson, we want to put this on hold,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
My wife
So
all of a sudden didn't want me to do marketing after 6 months.
yeah, exactly. Or my yeah, my CPA. But so long story short, I think it is a smart move to do that. But not everybody's cut out, if you know what I'm saying, for customer success or scaling the back office, productizing the business, writing processes down. I mean, this is where a lot of agencies struggle is that we're so excited to sell somebody. So we sell a carpenter one way and we did another kind of business med spas. And then you look at your back office, you have to fulfill all these different types of campaign. You become a very unscalable business. on the
Yeah.
fulfillment side, right? That's the biggest challenge that I see with agencies is that they themselves built a job they can't really scale. So you are the only person that has built a report. You're the only person that knows everybody's problems, and you're doing campaigns 400 different ways. Well, if McDonald's ever tried to do that, they wouldn't be successful, and they don't sell tacos. Neither does Taco Bell sell pizza. Why? They stay in their lane. They productize. So I think a lot of agencies struggle with that, just frankly. And so when they come to my world, I say, look, you got to pick a product, you got to pick an offer, and you need to scale to $1 million with that one thing. Can you do it? Because then you can be in whatever country of your choice and your agency will run.
Absolutely. I mean, getting to a world of subscription model or even recurring revenue model is the
Yeah.
sweet spot, especially as a solopreneur with maybe like, I don't know, a small team, right? And that's kind of the stepping stone before you could, I guess, become I guess a more matured entrepreneur, maybe an investor or something that you evolve into. But it takes what we just discussed takes like 5, 6 years to figure out, right? You have to have the right guidance and understanding of, the amount of failures you have to kind of evolve you as a person. Because I do think, the $10,000 a month marketer is drastically different than the $100,000 a month marketer to $1 million a month marketer.
Yeah.
Those are three different people with the same name, right?
Yeah.
The characteristics are different. They sleep at the different times. They work out differently. They have different places that they even go on vacation. Like it just
Yeah.
standards are different. Um, Solomon, help us understand what you see in the world of agency owners. Where do they go wrong with outbound marketing? Where do they make the pitfalls? Like what do we not know in the grand scheme of things when it comes to outbound marketing?
Yeah, I think it's well, we see a lot. I looked at a campaign today of somebody else. They got all their emails right. It's all verified and everything, but I look at the inbox, the actual message that they're sending, and I'm just like, it's black text, man. It's black text on a white screen. Like, does it really does it scream like, let me respond to this person? If your email starts with "I saw you on LinkedIn," please stop sending that. Because everybody's got LinkedIn. That's just not it. It's like saying "I saw you on Facebook." Do you email people saying I've like it's just not, it's just the threshold for
Unnatural.
good
Yeah.
emails is just no longer "I saw your website" or "I saw this." It needs to be like, hey, I'm reaching out to a handpicked few attorneys in XYZ city, town, whatever, to do this thing with. You got 10 minutes where I can show you what we're done or how I 10x this other guy's results and this guy and that guy. And they're like, oh my gosh, like that sounds like you put a little bit of time and energy into it. You have to put that level of effort in one email. That's, I would say, will work because there's no way that the customer would feel like this is automated or Paulson outsourced it. It just cannot. So like I start my emails out with like a compliments. Hey, kudos on 325-star reviews. Boom. Like, does it show you that I know you? Yes. Where did I get the data from? It's public. It's easy to get. You just have to know where to look. So like then they will feel like, damn, 320 reviews, man, we're not that bad of a company. You know what I'm saying? And then I say, hey, did you know that a lot of these, customers that are looking for you, you're going to be buried. They're not going to scroll and scroll and scroll to find you. If I did this and this and this, you're probably going to get better results. And they always tend to say, you know what, there's some truth to this. That's what I'm saying. I think it's the personalization, it's the data, it's the energy that they put into it. That's just not there because they don't know what to do, right? It's just lack of knowledge, lack of experience. Now, I want you to know I'm no perfect saint here. We're still learning. This is territory that's changing every single day, but we just want to get ahead of it, is what I'm saying. We're just trying to get ahead of it. And we've made some significant investments in all these things so that we can actually get it right. So if an agency comes into our world, we just go get their domain names and emails and warm them up. And does that make sense? So now we have a persona to then become like an SDR for you to start reaching out to your ideal customers. While that's happening, I'm trying to figure out what angle should you go and sell, because everyone's heard of digital marketing. It's not a new thing. Everybody heard SEO. Everybody heard first page ranking. It's just not Paulson. Like I don't go to sleep thinking, oh boy, if I had first page rankings, it's just not what they're looking for, right? Like you said, they want appointments or they want this. So you have to really say something that's really important that's going to get them to say yes to an appointment, not even working with you. So
I love it.
that's really, really critical. Yeah, I think the threshold has gone way higher than what the average person thinks it is.
Yeah, and it reminds me, so I started my agency journey like 2014, 15. And back then, we would spend time reading the reviews, and I had a dental agency, and we would spend time reading the reviews of these doctors, and I would send messages like, "Hey, I notice you have a great reputation in the community, and most of your patients are talking about Invisalign. And matter of fact, that's what I focus on, and I focus on bringing in appointments for Invisalign. And I became the Invisalign guy, and I only
Wow,
focused on that, right? And built
amazing.
a whole agency around that. And thinking back to the psychology behind it, that was just me just being naturally just like interested. I didn't have any gravitas of a
Yeah,
strategy that I picked up from, Frank Kern and Dan Kennedy. It was
yeah,
like just me just genuinely like, let me just see what people are saying about them. And that kind of a mentality has shifted into oh, let me throw in 100 appointments and I can do this with my AI widget tomorrow
yeah,
and guaranteed $1,000. Like it's like the marketing has become very transactional in the
yeah.
prospecting world to me, right? But the opportunity, I think, is what you're saying is getting to that personalization, knowing how to nurture properly, understanding the data behind the science of prospecting, and then building the scalability. Um, Solomon, put this whole conversation together for us and send us home if you don't mind.
Yeah, so like I said, there's only two ways to generate leads, inbound and outbound. Everything else is falling within that. So if you're doing LinkedIn outreach, that's outbound, right? If somebody's reaching out to you, that's inbound. So you got to run both. If you can do both, fantastic. That's just, that means that you can sustain some tough times because you got leads coming in. You also are prospecting all the time. So if you're not closing deals, you're going to have some appointments because your systems are always running. So you want to have that. Secondly, we know how hard it is to get a video, a lot of views on YouTube, the right hook, the right title tag, the right thumbnails, the right everything people do. Why don't we do that with our outbound? Does that make sense? Like we put so much energy into a blog post these days so we can rank high on Google and all this stuff goes into it. Why not put that kind of energy into outbound? What I like about outbound is that if there is a person that's interested right now, they will let you know. It's so much faster. I don't have to wait for Google to rank me in 6 months. And then the right backlinks are going to come in. And does that make sense? It just doesn't have to be. I could find out today if somebody's interested. And it's, like I said, it's infinitely scalable if you can handle the work. This is where a lot of people have challenges. And then, just do it, try it, test it.
Absolutely. And if there's if for the high levelers that are already watching this podcast, help them understand the integration between ClickX and high level. What's the future of that? What is your vision for it? And where can
Yeah.
they find information about it? Maybe see a demo or something. Like where do they go?
Absolutely. So our vision is to make sure that this data is not siloed. It's not sitting in our database and our platform sitting there and only being used for the agencies. We'd like high levelers to use it for their outbound marketing, mass emails. So we like them to download it and run it, upload it to Facebook ads so that the algorithm can get better at showing your ads to these businesses, which I said is really hard to get small business data. So we built a very simple integration. So you just go to your ClickX account, you just literally click integration and say high level, and then you log in and you see all the sub accounts. You select one sub account, and every time you have a list of something, plumbers, roofers, whatever it is, med spa owners, anything that is brick and mortar, CPAs, security companies, we're doing all these random things. Push one button, that data will sit inside high level securely for you guys to do whatever it is that you want to do in high level that you do, right? Which is
I
drip
love that.
email sequence, voicemail drops, everything high level can do, you can do. So we shouldn't have any agency owner saying, I don't have leads, I don't know how to sell. No, that is just not an excuse. Outbound costs literally nothing, right? Like it's just your time, energy. Inbound, I can say you have to run ads, make creatives, hire a media buyer. If you don't know how to do, there's a lot more to it. You got to build some cash flow. But why not talk to those businesses 3 to 5 mile radius of where you live? You could probably make $1 million agency with just that. That's just literally what I think. If you really done your job, like as a farm, like farm your town with Outbound, add value, give stuff away, just help them out, do free strategy sessions. I guarantee you, you'll have more MRR than you know what to do with.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you, Solomon, jumping in for a podcast here. For those of you that spend some time watching, there are some links and resources about high level as well as ClickX in the description. We'll make sure the teams put those out there for those of you that may want a demo or just kind of even talk to Solomon's team or vice versa, even talk to somebody on the high level side. But either way, Solomon, thanks for jumping in, man. I appreciate your time, and looks like we can maybe even do this again at another time.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Paulson. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye for now.